And how's it going, everyone? Welcome to No Fun Allowed. Today, we are joined by three incredibly special guests. Today, we are going to be talking about a whole bunch of fun things. So let's get started with these wonderful intros. Starting off, Denny, go ahead and tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi there, folks. My name is Denny Dicely. I run the Dicely D&D channel. I run attached to that, I've got a podcast called Speak Dicely. I run a Twitch actual play called Play Dicely. And if you're wanting to learn how to play D&D 5e, my YouTube channel has got you covered.
Alrighty, for the whole two of you that don't know how to play D&D, Wally, go ahead and tell us a bit about yourself.
Hey folks, Wally DM here. I have a YouTube channel that's focused on puzzles and traps, and I also have a best-selling puzzle book you can find on DriveThru RPG.
Absolutely. And the biggest puzzle of all is figuring out how to keep on getting your players back to the table. Fred, go ahead and tell us about yourself.
I bribe them with money and pizza, but digital pizza doesn't work anymore, so money is better. Yeah. No, so hi, I'm Fred Wheeler. I run the How to D&D YouTube channel. I'm on Facebook and Twitter, and I am on Twitch TV, but I don't use it because I just don't use it. It's me. And I talk about Dungeons and Dragons mostly.
Yeah, you heard it here first. Fred is not part of that top 100 of winningest Twitch streamers, apparently. No millions for you. Alrighty, let's dive into a whole bunch of fun questions. So when it comes to our tabletop role-playing games, we have things like spell slots and arrows and food and a whole bevy and list of resources. But the thing is I know that these resources are not universal to everybody's game. Some people use them, some people don't. Do you have resource management in your games? Do resources matter? Or do you hand wave things off? Denny, let's start with you.
All right. Some of the things you listed there, like spell slots, like there are certain elements that I do treat as rules as written, like spell slots, hit points, of course, gold, spell components with material costs, those kind of things. But there are a few things I tend to either hand wave or alter at least. Ammunition, I don't find my players are often keeping track of that, but if they have the will, I suppose, to police themselves, I'm like, all the power to you. We'll deal with that when we get to it, unless they've got some special ammunition. We'll definitely want to keep track of that. I usually incorporate some sort of something similar to lifestyle expenses when it comes to food between traveling between a civilized locations specifically. Like, I'm not going to make them hunt if they're in civilized lands or in a specific kingdom traveling from a city to another city. But once they get out into unexplored wild terrain, then I'm probably referring to more rules as written. Let's keep track of food and water. I hand wave experience because I usually tend to play with milestone and carrying weight. I do alter carrying weight. I don't. Again, this is another thing of I let my players police themselves if they want to use this. Otherwise, if I know one of my players has a character with very poor strength and they try and pick up one item that I know is going to be really heavy, I'm going to mention that. I'll be like, yeah, you're just not strong enough to carry this item. Somebody's going to need to be the holder for that tome made out of stone, for example.
Alrighty, so the wizard isn't walking out with the obelisk. And got it.
No.
You know what? That's what the barbarian's for. Wally, resources in your game? Yes or no?
I can't just answer that in a yes or no. So I'm going to first start with like my old games that I used to play in person when I used to do such things. I would actually, after a battle, I know they shot arrows and stuff like that. I would walk around the table and picture this old school teacher with a yardstick. And I'd look over on their character sheets. And if I see in one of them just one arrow off, fix it right now. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to depend on the session I'm playing, honestly. If I'm going to run, just to echo a lot of what Denny said, if I'm going to run a game that is going to dungeon delve or we're going to be traveling for 4 or 5 days, then I'm going to probably mention to the characters beforehand, we're going to do this. You might want to make sure that you're all filled up on supplies. and then leave it up to them. And then probably as the course goes on, they go deeper into the dungeon stuff. I might remind them, hey, don't forget to, mark your arrows and stuff like that. But most of the time, 90% of the game, I'm not micromanaging any of this. I don't care. If you want to do that as a player, I do. I'm weird that way. I don't know why, but if I got a ranger, I'm keeping track of my arrows. If I'm a wizard, I'm keeping track of my, spell components, stuff like that. Just because as a player personally, I think it's fun to be like, oh man, I'm just about out of arrows. I'm going to have to find something else to do. Or, hey guys, can we stop by the general store over here? I got to pick up some supplies and things of that nature. But again, it's going to depend on session to session for me.
Yeah, and honestly, going to the general store is great because then your DM has to come up with some random NPC and you can make their life miserable.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty awesome.
That's
Fred, resources in your game. How do you feel?
Ditto, Denny, and Wally. Oh, did you want more? Did you want more than that?
I mean,
do I just say something
that sums
else?
it up right there. I mean,
Yeah, well, no, I don't really. It's as a dungeon master, I've got enough to deal with. So resource management it's boring. It's extra work. I don't like to have to work too much. My idea is that if I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons, I don't want it to be work. I'd like it to be fun. If I wanted work, then I'd do Dungeons and Dragons as a job. Oh my God, I just had this epiphany. I kind of do, and to a certain degree, not completely, but it's yeah. Maybe I need some sort of medication for that. No, look, when it comes to resource management, Dark Sun's probably the only time I've ever really worried about resource management because it's all about survival and resource management's a big deal, water and other things, food. But everything else is like, wow, I can kind of get away with not worrying about that. It's the stuff, and frankly, it's dull, so why would I bother? But yeah, pretty much everything that Denny and Wally said is like, yeah, I'll take that. Easy.
alrighty. When in doubt, copy it out. Well, for me personally, it comes down to the campaign. In 5e in particular, I've ran a lot of campaigns where resources are completely irrelevant, but I have ran many campaigns that, oh yeah, I'm looking at your character sheet. I'm checking your arrows. I'm checking. Food is a big deal. Food and water. Yeah, definitely slapping the yardstick, on the table. Absolutely. I find I do a resource, tracking a lot more in older systems, or not, I mean, older, but just different game systems than 5e because 5e truly is about being a pulpy, high action, high octane sort of game, and resources I do think drag down the pace of the game in that sense because I just want if I'm running a game that's supposed to be high octane, then what's it matter if you are eating food here and there? You probably just conjure up the food yourself, or you can just go out in the woods and hunt one thing real quick. So resources entirely campaign dependent, more often than not hand waved, but sometimes it matters, and it matters quite a lot.
It just occurred to me something that maybe I should have said, and that is, and I think a lot of people forget this, is that, resource management is fine at low level, but as you get higher in terms of your character and your fame, and level 5 or 6 is really sort of at that point where you're famous now. You are well known. You probably indoctrinate. You've got your own church. If you're a priest or a cleric, if you're a druid, you're probably part of a guild or some sort of organisation. If you're a fighter or a paladin, you probably are connected to something. And those organisations, they usually pay for all of that. You're doing services for them all the time. Like, we have a task for you, we have a job for you, we have a quest for you, and they pay you pay your meals. They put you up in the best places. You wind up with getting to sleep in the guest quarters of the local church or something like that, or whatever it is, or the Lord's Manor, depending on what your relationship is. So a lot of that stuff doesn't really make a lot of sense at mid-level and onward.
Yeah. And a very interesting trend I've seen is in D&D, you are beyond wealthy. You are beyond rich. You get gold, and you getting gold makes you way more than any peasant ever, because peasants are earning, coppers and silvers. Your players are earning gold, and that could be in the span of dozens, hundreds of thousands of gold. And yet somehow, almost all games that I play, all my players are penny pinchers. I don't get it. Like, is this the same for you guys? Do you all have those players that are like, oh, we just earned 100,000 gold from the Dragon's Lair. Oh, but that thing costs 10 gold. Ooh, can we negotiate? Like, come on. Like, is that? Am I the only one? Am I the only one?
My recent campaign I've been running, I've come across in the past. I've had that situation where they've stockpiled their gold and they're so wealthy and so rich. But the recent campaign I've been running, I don't know why it has been, but like all of them are like, I have 10 gold to my name. We have to use an inn. Oh gosh, how am I going to manage this? I'm like, you know what? I must be doing something right this time.
Yeah, for sure. I think. Yeah, go on.
Oh, another way to make your players panic too is, let's say you're a DM and you're just taking notes and they've been in a dungeon for a while. They're like, oh, by the way, your torch is starting to go out. That one is exhausted. And then just kind of look up at them and see the reaction. I didn't know we were counting torches.
And then the player says, Dungeon Master, I don't use torches. I've got dark vision. Everybody else in the party has dark vision. Why? What's a torch? Are you crazy? Do we even ever need to have that sort of thing? Oh, does anybody ever remember disadvantage on perception checks when they're in the dark and they've got dark vision? Oh, I don't think so. Yeah, look, Trevor, I know what you're talking about. I've had that in my game, even when I give them stuff. And it's usually, I find, initially when they've got hardly any money, then they'll worry a little bit in my home group. And then later on, once they've got lots and lots of cash, they will penny pinch. And it's not the kind of penny pinch that's serious. It's like, no, dude, we're not forking out for another set of plate armor because the rust monster ate your armor. You're out of luck, mate. You're going to get it. Go get yourself another job. The rest of us are going to put that into something else. So it's usually taking the piss out of each other rather than being serious, I find, later on in the game. But in the beginning, they kind of worry a bit.
Absolutely. How our players, spend the gold and how they spend these resources. It really does come down to the campaign that we're running. It depends on the social status of our groups, and it comes down to what you allow them to use the resources on. So go ahead and tell us down in the comments below, do you have resources in your games? Do you just hand wave things? Do you have it be super serious? Are you somewhere in the middle? Go ahead and tell me those things because I would love to hear it.